What is going on, everyone, and welcome to episode 7 of Framing the Force here on the Aspect Network. I'm one of your hosts, Alex Batts, and joining me every week to discuss the latest in a galaxy far, far away is Robby Weidemann. Robby, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. It's been an interesting week, so we got a lot to talk about.
Yeah, interesting is definitely a way to put it. So, this week we're discussing the announcement that the newest live action Star Wars series, The Acolyte, has been canceled and will not return for a season 2. There have been numerous reports since about the news, with many reporting that the series was even prepping a writer's room and directors for a season 2 before the series was canceled. And according to internal Disney language via John Rocha, we've spent a considerable amount of time on this podcast talking about the series and what's to come on the publishing side for the characters. So, Robby, what was your reaction to this news, and what do you think happens now with some of these characters?
So I'm going to give you the first thought that popped into my head, and then I'm going to give you my actual reaction. Um,
Hmm.
so the first thing that popped in my head was, why the hell did we tease Plagueis? Now he
Right.
doesn't have a blank slate when he wants to come in. It's like, what?
Hmm.
Why did he just show up? Anyway, that was my instant reaction. That was my greedy self thinking about the only story I ever want to see told. Anyway, um, I mean, I think it all comes down to it was so damn expensive for what came out of it.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of people are just, I mean, it's been a lot of instant reactions, like very emotional ones and
Hmm.
everything. But and it was I enjoyed the show. I think there were other like other content, other shows that we've gotten that maybe, I mean, honestly, only one of them has gotten more than one season at
Yeah.
this point, so I can't even
It's
really
just
speak
Ahsoka.
on that.
But I mean,
But like,
besides
but I mean,
Andor,
like,
which, yeah.
just the way to end this one, like considering it was obviously set up for a season two,
Hmm.
and the way it's been handled as opposed to other shows like Obi-Wan was, it was a limited series, we knew that, and it was billed as that, so it was kind of just one and done.
Yeah.
Boba Fett, I don't remember Boba Fett was pitched as a limited series, but it was obviously also setting up a season two, but it was just kind of like cold shouldered, like just kind of like hush hush, like, well, forget about it. But this one was
Yeah.
like very like a public like cancellation.
Yeah.
So it was, I don't know. I feel like it's all been handled really weird from both the Lucasfilm, Disney, the fans, both sides of the fandom, and I mean, I think it all just boils down to like it was really expensive for what we got.
Yeah. That's, I have so many thoughts on this. First off, I feel for the cast and crew, eh,
Yeah.
like, deeply. That, I mean, that sucks. Regardless of what you think of the quality of the show, no one
Hmm.
sets out to make a bad or not good project. Like, they're all doing their best. They put in a
Put the
lot of
heart into
time.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I feel immensely for them, because that
Absolutely.
sucks. Like, and I mean, we talked about it when we talked about the season as a whole. I'm not really a fan of the show. Like, I didn't really like the first
Hmm.
season that much. It was fine. I'm not like super heartbroken that we're not going to get a season 2 because it wasn't the most compelling to me, but that said, it's weird. I think that Lucasfilm and Disney got um it's an interesting position with the previous shows, and you touched on it in the fact that like Obi-Wan was billed as a limited series, and so they didn't have to like cancel the season 2 for that. Even though I do think that if the reception or numbers or whatever metrics they're using for success would have been higher for that, I don't think that the possibility of a second season of that would have been out of the question. But I think that since they did bill it as a limited series, that didn't really become a problem. I think the
Hmm.
same thing for Book of Boba Fett. I don't think that they used the specific like limited series language for it, but it kind of felt like that. And also with the way that it's slotted in between the seasons of Mandalorian, anyways, like it kind of felt like an interlude type chapter that would have the character tie back into the Mandoverse stuff. Still, we've even been getting some like, I know, oh, I'm blanking so hard on his name right now. Boba Fett. Um,
Tamura.
Yeah, yes. I know that he's been like there was a quote from him that came out like earlier this week saying that like maybe implying that Boba Fett wouldn't be in the Mando and Grogu movie, but then apparently there was another report that I saw that was like clarification on that quote and saying that he couldn't speak on whether or not Boba Fett would be in the movie. And so I think that like the jury's out on the if I had to guess, I would say that he will be in it because I don't see them not pulling as many characters as they possibly can into that movie. Especially like from that time and
Little
area
yeah.
like that, the Mandoverse stuff, like they're very much trying to build all that. Um, yeah, so this show, The Acolyte, being like officially like it's was very clearly set up for a season two. Like there's as much as season one did have a like the handful of its major story arcs coming to a close and like wrapping up, it very obviously had plot threads that were going to be addressed later down the road. And so yeah, to come out and having to say like it's canceled, it's not going to be getting a second season sucks and is also an interesting position that Lucasfilm and Disney them find themselves in. Um, I'm glad that you hammered it home like three times already in the first like couple sentences of your
Money
response.
talks,
And the
baby.
yeah, it's the problem, and we'll get into like a lot of the other points and possible problems or reasons or whatever that it was canceled. But like for me, what I'm looking at, the problem started in the fact that this show should not have cost $180 million for 8 episodes that are not even an hour long each. Like it just should not. There is no I just
Mathematical
don't
reason.
understand. And also, where did the money go? Because I'm sorry, I didn't see it on screen. Like it doesn't look like $180 million production. It doesn't feel like $180 million production. Alien Romulus just came out for $80 million and looks infinitely better, like visually and from a production standpoint to me. And granted, that's a like couple hours like less of content, but also you can make two Alien Romuluses for still less than the cost of what this was. So it's like I don't
And get
really
almost as much time.
yeah, exactly, and then you're like, what, 20, 30 minutes, like, behind, so it's
You're
like,
like, yeah,
alright,
you're
then it's
not
like
very far behind at all.
another $20 million to even it out, and you get the same runtime, like, what are we doing here, is my big thing with that, like, that check. So,
I
like,
wish I had an answer there.
it's not the thing about that is that it's not a like Acolyte or Star Wars or Disney specific problem. It's a systemic problem in the streaming sphere. All of the streaming services are feeling this right now. They're all restricting their budgets. They're all not renewing like series for more seasons because they've realized that streaming is not a sustainable model for new shows to grow. You can't pump almost $200 million into 8 episodes of a
Mhm.
service that's not like it's not like you can go to the movie theater and buy a ticket for the Acolyte and they're getting revenue from that. It's a passive income from Disney Plus. And so it's not like the Acolyte specifically is making them money. It's that they're banking on Disney Plus and subscriber counts doing that. And that's not really like how
You're not gonna make your money back from that, and that's where the ads come in, and that's why television is television, like
exactly. And so it's just not a feasible model. And that's the problem with it. And that's why we're not getting a season two. It cost way too much money
Yep.
for the viewership that it got. And also, I haven't looked too much into the like actual stats myself. I've just seen the second like the reporting that people put out there about what the viewership was. That apparently this was the lowest viewed of the Star Wars shows. And so it's
But
like,
I saw some numbers and so I saw some people and I don't know anything about numbers, like, don't quote me on this, but
yeah.
I'm gonna say it anyway. I saw that it had better numbers, whether I don't know if it was for overall or at least the finale than
Mhm.
Andor, and look where Andor's at, like, you know?
The difference there though is that Tony Gilroy was smart and said you're guaranteeing me 2 seasons before we get into this. But
I
also though,
understand, okay.
if you remember, it was originally supposed to be 5 seasons. Like the original pitch for Andor was that it was going to be 5 seasons and then they cut down
That's
to
why we're
2.
doing time jumps in this season, aren't we?
Yeah, that's why we're getting 4 years in this second season as opposed to like cuz they were originally going to do a year per season.
Mhm.
Um but still, Tony Gilroy was smart and was like, "You're guaranteeing me these 2 seasons before we start doing season
See,
one,
I
right?"
didn't know that, but good
Yeah,
on him.
that's the
But
only reason we're
that's how
getting
I
Andor
think,
season
like
two,
that's how I think, like, just modern television in general should be at this point, like, because everything
especially.
keeps getting canceled after 1 season, like, let it have a chance to breathe. There are some shows that are gonna be absolute shit shows and
Mhm,
probably deserve to be canceled after 1 season, but I feel
mhm.
like most, like, never get that second chance, and it's terrible.
It's if you're going to do the model that streaming is trying to do and have these, I'm going to say quote unquote prestige shows would that have 8 episode seasons that are not even an hour long episodes sometimes, then yeah, you need to guarantee a season two, especially if you're going to take like a year or 2 years, House of the Dragon, off for like a season, right? You need to like it needs to be. We just need more time with these. Like these shows need
Yeah,
more
we don't have a
time. That
like, the shows don't have a chance, like, we don't even get a chance to, like we don't get to sit down and, like, connect with everything and enjoy
mhm,
it,
like
like, it's supposed to be and, we all hate commercials, don't get me wrong, but, give me those 45 minutes. It's usually an hour. We usually get an hour out of our
mhm,
lives when a new episode airs of something. Sure, it's streaming. I don't care. Give me the 45 damn minutes. We're used to
yeah,
binging at this point, and when we binge the shows we like that are from traditional television, they're 45 minutes.
mhm,
So, like, we're
yeah.
used to, like, just give us something, that's familiar. Like, it shouldn't be these quick little, like, where is that time? Why is it so small? Why so little episodes? Why so little time? Like,
Yeah, I
what's the
was reading
point?
an article the other day, either I think it was yesterday actually, that was talking about how the 8 episode season is just like killing all of these shows and how
It's
it just
destroying them.
makes no sense for television. Like it's not how television is supposed to operate
It's
as a medium. Like
it's
it's not.
okay if it looks cinematic, but it's not supposed to be cinematic runtimes. You go to the movies for that.
Yeah, and it yeah, that it's so those are a lot of the issues. But yeah, I think for me the biggest thing of and it sucks. But I think the simplest, like a lot of the time, I'm forgetting the phrase, but like Occam's razor, like the simplest explanation is probably the most accurate one. And as you said, like it just costs too much money for the returns that we got on it. Like it costs too much money for us to have maybe the worst Star Wars viewership of it. Maybe not, still not great though. I know it certainly wasn't the best viewership that they got
Mhm,
from it. I know it was still in the Nielsen like top 10. That's also US only numbers though, as far as what they track for like their data. Um, but yeah, it's just one of those things where like you can't have a series cost that much money and like expect it to get a at best mixed result, like mixed reception, and like
it's not like
expect
a
to get
general audience it needs to be spectacular with that budget.
yeah, like it needs to if you're gonna do it, it needs to blow people away. And it's just not enough people watched it. Like it's a bummer, but it's as simple as that, I think.
Yeah,
And I think the thing that really is rough about it and that I know a lot of the fandom is very upset and I will say rightfully about is that this is the first Star Wars series with a hugely diverse cast. You have a like woman showrunner doing it. You get representation that is so desperately needed in Star Wars, right? And you also have a show that's set not in the same time period that we've been stuck in since the first Star Wars came out, right? You're exploring new territory and all of these things and it's fresh and those were as we talked about in our recap of the season like the best parts of the show and the most interesting thing about the show to me was that we were getting all these new things and
mhm.
so that's super cool and so it definitely like it hurts a lot to see that canceled and then I know a lot of the things that people are also talking about in the fandom is being is that it sucks that the worst segments of the fandom feel like they're getting a victory lap right now because a lot of the people that were being really loud and obnoxious and terrible about having hate campaigns towards the show because they're like, oh, it's woke and it's the worst thing ever. And the fact that those people are like, yeah, we got the show canceled. That's awesome. Like, that's it sucks that those people feel like they're victorious in this moment but I also do think that it's and of course I'm not in the room when these decisions are happening but like I it's so difficult for me to believe that this decision is made by Disney because some dude with 3,000 subs on YouTube is saying that the show is woke and therefore bad and then that's why general
I
audiences are
don't
not tuning
think
in
they
like that's
they
not what's
care
happening I'm
about
sorry
those people.
like I know it's super super loud for everyone like us that's super ingrained in the fandom and on Twitter every day and seeing all of the hate and all of the bullshit that happens with that but like Disney's not making these decisions because of what people on Twitter and YouTube are saying like they're not I'm sorry that's just not it's not how it works I will say they do need to be way better about protecting their talent and sticking up for their talent
Yeah, no,
and
can
saying
we
like
talk about that?
like that is absolutely something that they need to be better about and they said they were going to be better about and
They
have
they
not
they
done.
release a generic PR statement. Meanwhile, Amanda's getting flooded right now
Oh, terrible, it's
as
awful.
part of as part of this quote unquote victory lap. It's
Mhm.
like, I'm sorry, but it's fucking insane.
Oh,
Like,
it's absurd.
I was arguing with someone today. I wasn't really arguing. It wasn't
Mhm.
really an argument. He was trying to tell me or he was going around advocating that it's okay to bully these people and let them know that their shit is trash because then maybe they'll learn from it. But
And it's not
like
that's not how.
that's like what do you're so you're advocating for bullying here and I'm like, and he tells me he's like no I it's constructive criticism is fine. I go that's not constructive criticism.
Mm-mm.
Like
It's
you're
just
the reason that
you're just
Ahmed
being
Best went through what he went through. Like
yeah.
look at Jake Lloyd, Kelly Marie
Uh-huh.
Tran. I can go on.
Oh yeah, I
Moses,
just like
I can't remember her Latin. Ingram,
Ingram,
Moses
yeah,
Ingram. Yeah,
Ingram, yeah.
like I can go on, and it's absolutely ridiculous.
Oh,
I
it's
don't know
terrible.
why these companies are like Disney. You will attack anyone you will go you will make sure you win any argument ever.
Mhm.
Don't get me
Except
started
for
on that
this one.
allergy one going on right now. Like
Oh, the
they will stoop to the
yeah.
lowest of lows to win an argument, and but they can't put up a wall for their people that represent their company and that work for them
Yeah.
and bring them in money. Like, are you
Yeah, for,
kidding
like,
me?
one of their biggest properties and franchises, like, it's people there yeah. It's absurd.
Oh,
It's ridiculous.
it
The
oh, I have a special kind of hatred for those kinds of people that attack them.
yeah, that
For reading a script they were given that they didn't have
yeah,
nothing
for
to
doing
do
their
with.
job,
That's
like
they were hired for it.
yeah, it's that stuff is absolutely absurd, and there's no place for that, and so it does absolutely suck that that's something that is a
I'm a blood
consequence of
pumping on
this.
that one.
Yeah, that, like, these people are feeling, vindicated in that, and that's awful, but again, I don't it's so difficult for me to think, like, yeah, that's the reason that it got canceled. Like we were just saying a minute ago, like,
It's
it
definitely
costs $180,000,000.
it's the money, what you got out of that money, and the amount of people who are seeing what was had from that money. And
Yeah,
none of those numbers line up
they don't
enough
match up.
to make it justifiable. And it blows because I wanted to see the second season. My entire everyone in my house wanted to see the second season. Like
Yeah.
I there were a lot of people that were really into it, and it was a new, fresh era, like it could be it was a gateway to a lot of people returning to the Star Wars fandom or entering it for the first time because it was
Mhm.
something so new and different, and they didn't have to really know the Skywalker timeline or anything for it.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of people that were excited, but just like just devil's advocate, the numbers just didn't make sense
Yeah, it
as
just
to
doesn't
what. Yeah.
it doesn't add up, and I've seen a lot of people to put back to the more like this is not a successful way for shows to operate thing, and a lot of people are rightfully pointing out that a lot of shows grow into themselves, like that a lot of shows have rough starts
This is
and
why
then
we
they
need
get
at
better
least two
as
seasons and 45-minute episodes.
yeah, that like it takes a little bit for things to get going, and like those shows like the go-to that I've seen a lot of people saying, especially in the Star Wars fandom in the wake of this, is that like a lot of people don't like the first seasons of the Clone Wars or Rebels, and you look at how those shows ended up and they're some of the best Star Wars content. My favorite Star Wars content is literally the last 4 episodes of the Clone Wars. We wouldn't have gotten that if we didn't get past season 1. And people are like, oh well, those shows wouldn't survive now, they want to get renewed for a season 2 now. And maybe not. I would again, though, argue that that is more so a problem of streaming as a whole, but also, again, playing devil's advocate. Season 1 of the Clone Wars did not cost $180 million. Like
Yep.
it didn't. And then to put another comparison, which this one was wild. I don't know if you saw me like tweeting about this, but people were like comparing it to Breaking Bad and saying that Breaking Bad took a while to hit its stride. Which one? Categorically wrong. Like you just did not watch Breaking Bad if you think that that's the case.
Nope. If you weren't hooked
Like
by episode 1, that's a you problem.
yeah, but also the entirety of Breaking Bad cost less than season 1 of The Acolyte. So like again, what are we doing here with this budget price? Like
Yep.
you just should not greenlight it
Breaking
for
Bad's like I
this.
think 65, 66 episodes.
Yeah.
And
And
we
so
have
like I was
8.
yeah, cuz it's what 5 seasons and they're
It's
all
5 seasons, about
is it 13
12,
episodes?
13, yeah, somewhere within those range for each season. I think it's like 65 or 66.
Yeah, so like it's just it's not to say it's not comparable because we're comparing them, but like it's not it's just it's a very different thing, and like I do agree with the sentiment that this show probably would have grown into something a lot better. I think that we even talked about this in our like what do we expect from season
Mhm.
2. Like I very much expected or would have expected season 2 to be a lot better. Like and to fix some of the problems or the growing pains or whatever you want to call it that is with season one. I do think that season two would have improved upon a lot of those things,
I think it
and
was
so it does.
finding its feet just,
Yeah,
late in the game because that's the
it's
timeline it
just
was
what
given.
happens. But also, it's just one of those things where like it goes back to we shouldn't be doing these eight. Like, can you imagine if instead of one season of 8 episodes, the first season that we got was half of season one? Like, if season one was 16 episodes or even
Mhm.
13 episodes, but they were full hour length episodes instead of like 30-minute episodes, like
We'd
then
be
we would
fine.
get the you know, talked about 2 seasons for the show, like quote unquote 2 seasons for the show
Right.
to grow into itself, right? That would be, I think, much more reasonable. And I think that the conversation would be a lot different around it if that were the case. Unfortunately, though, we're getting these dumb 8 episode seasons for a lot of things, which is just absolutely unreal to me. So yeah, I don't know. It's tough. It really sucks. I know that there are some people that are like praising this decision and citing it as a good business choice. I don't
Mhm.
know if I would use the descriptor good for it. I think I would say an understandable business choice, as we
Yes,
keep on
that is
saying that,
about
like,
as much as I could
as
agree with.
positivity as I can
Yeah.
give that. Like, I'm not going to praise the decision.
Especially the way it was handled
It's, yeah. And so I'm not going to say it's a
on
good
Manny's
business.
birthday, no less.
Oh, yeah, dude, that was rough. So I saw that and I was like, no way is this his birthday. I feel so bad. Yeah, so I'm not gonna say I don't think it's a good business decision necessarily. I think it is an understandable one. Um,
Mathematically, yeah.
yeah, like I know a lot of some people are also speculating about that it feels like a Disney like a Disney executive level decision as opposed to a Lucasfilm level decision, which like if the reports that they were prepping a writer's room and even directors and stuff for season two, that very much does feel like it probably would be the case. Like if
Mhm.
Lucasfilm is actively working on developing season two, obviously they're not thinking about canceling it, right? And
Right.
so then they get like handed down that it's not getting moved forward with. Um, so yeah, I think that that would make sense that it was a higher up decision, which I think again plays into the idea that it's all of these streaming services restricting and cutting back their budgets and pulling back on what they're doing. And now this leaves us in the fact that like, which we'll talk about later in the episode in our later segments, but of how kind of like barren the like future landscape of projects is looking for Star Wars stuff. But before we segment out of this and into future to the rest of our segments, there is also the fact that we're getting more novels for this show. Like it's really awkward now that we have a
Yeah,
couple
it's
books that are
so
slated that are
awkward.
like we talked about it in the our season wrap up and like all that stuff. Like we're getting
The
they
Comic-Con
announced
review had it,
yeah, like we're getting some books where and like the end of the High Republic publishing run is coming to a close next year. So like that's
it's
a
just it's
thing.
awkward, like, it's
I don't.
kind of I guess embarrassing, like, I don't know, like, what I I'm at a loss of how to describe
It's that like that
that
also means
situation.
it's definitely got to be a Disney level decision and not a Lucasfilm because like there's no like you can't. Which I
I
mean,
mean
I guess.
and we know how the High Republic has operated, it's, like, 5 years backwards, like, we they know they have this stories set out
Mhm.
pretty far back, so,
And
like,
like we've known since the
if he's got
beginning that
these
it was
books and stuff coming out, like
we've known it was plotted as like a 3 phase thing and that like this last publishing run is going to be the end of the High Republic era, which is so I would sad, but also I'm so behind on it, so it's going to be kind of cool to be able to just be like, oh, it's done, I can finally like, sit down and try to like
breathe.
go through all of them. But yeah, I mean I'm really curious to know about the timeline of when these books got like approved and started to be worked because like there's no it's just yeah, it's so awkward because there's no way you greenlight and like pitch tie-in books for this show when you're not going to be getting more of the show.
And the art
Um,
of book, like
the art of book is still going to be sick.
but it just doesn't make any sense though. So are they gonna go through with these? Because
I feel like they have to. That
I
again
feel
would
like they
be.
have to too, but they're pulling Acolyte or there's reports of people like
Oh,
they're
it's gone.
starting.
I
Oh, it's
checked.
gone.
I went to
It's
check. There's no Acolyte merch on the Disney store. Which okay, I
uh,
would like to note this because I saw some other people pointing this out too. So was a bunch of tweets that started going up today because if you go to the Disney online store and you search for the Acolyte, There is nothing there. There's no merch at all. It's gone, which it was there 48 hours ago. So that's something.
So
It
there we
is
go.
worth it's worth noting that there's no Andor merch on the Disney Online store. There's also no Ahsoka merch on the Disney Online store. There's like Ahsoka the character merch, but nothing related to
Right.
the show. There's no the Clone Wars merch on there either.
Well,
At the
I know
same
with Disney
time,
because I live 20 minutes from Disney,
dude, yeah,
so
you
when
were
I fr
posting
when
pictures at Galaxy's Edge the other day, and I was like, this guy, okay, man,
just a
rub it in,
casual
rub it
day
in.
with casual day, but, no, like, I do know that they will cycle out the
Hmm.
shows and the merch and stuff, but they have a
Yeah,
fat few month window to breathe, like, afterwards
yeah,
too, because it also takes a while to get the merch out and stuff, but, like,
hmm,
this is definitely the quickest I've seen one of the
yeah.
shows.
It's definitely
Like,
like
it's definitely a it's like, it's yes, it's good to note that the other shows aren't there, but Disney's
but
patterns with the show merch,
last for longer than this.
yes, much
Like
longer
it,
than a month after it ended.
yeah, or 48 hours after it got announced that it's not coming
Canceled,
back
yeah.
for a season two. Like, yeah, it's definitely like, okay, yeah, they do not keep all of the show's merch on there, but it's a little sus that it was there 2 days ago and now it's not. Like, that's not great. So some people are, of course, naturally the next leap that people make are like, oh, are they going to remove it from Disney Plus, a la how they removed Willow? Um, I can't see that happening. I feel like it would be utterly bonkers to see a Star Wars show, like a canon Star Wars show, just straight up get removed from
Straight up
Disney Plus. Like
holiday, story
edition,
treatment.
yeah. Like I can't see that happening. I think that would be the absolute craziest thing that could possibly come from this entire situation.
I hope they have half the brains to not do it, but I mean, it would be an absolute just mess. I'm gonna put it very simply. Just a
Mess.
mess.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be very
I
kind
don't
and put it simply.
Yeah, I don't think that that's gonna happen. Like, it's so hard for me to picture that.
I can
But hey,
expect it to not be a steelbook, that's for sure.
we're getting that. I need to get those. Andor has a steelbook out, right?
Yes, it
Yeah, it does.
does.
I need to get that, man.
I
I
have
gotta get
all of
that.
the show ones. They're all out except for like Ahsoka. I don't think Boba Fett has one either.
I mean, yeah, because
I
come on, like,
don't think it
do
has
we?
one.
Yeah. I need to get that Andor one though. That'd be nice. I need to get that and the Loki. And I it's not Star Wars, but I want the Loki steelbook too because
I haven't watched Loki,
top tier.
but I know my
Oh,
girlfriend
dude,
wants it,
I
so
know
I
that's
have
a
to.
tangent, but you got to check that out. Um,
I'm not a
yeah,
Marvel guy.
I can't imagine that they'll pull it, even though they've evidently started pulling the merch immediately.
So
Um,
it's yeah, some
it's something.
interesting business decisions. I
Yeah,
mean, if you want to recoup some of that budget, leave the merch out.
maybe you should start pushing that merch a little harder.
Yeah, at least clear it off the shelves. You already
Yeah,
produced it. What are you just
it's
gonna
in the
burn it?
warehouse, bro. Like, what are you?
Like what? I
Yeah.
don't know. It's weird, but let's go to the let's take a break. You know, when we come back, we're gonna discuss the future of Star Wars on Disney Plus that we
Hmm.
already have sort of touched on, and where we believe things stand with the leadership of the company. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Framing the Force. Before the break, we discussed the cancellation of the Acolyte. Now we wanted to look at this decision on a larger scale and how we feel about the current slate of Star Wars. 4 years ago at D23, Kathleen Kennedy announced a massive slate that was supposed to be the driving force of Lucasfilm content for years to come. 4 years later, of the 11 Star Wars projects discussed, 2 have been canceled, 3 are on hold or under redevelopment, and another 3 have either ended or had their seasons reduced. On top of this, 2 other Lucasfilm projects announced were either sold off or are no longer publicly available for viewership.
Insane.
Coupling this with a real sense of uncertainty for the future slate of Star Wars projects, Alex, how are you feeling about the future of Star Wars?
Not great. I'm just gonna go ahead and we'll get out in front. Not too great. We have Andor season 2, and that's about what I'm hyped on. I mean we're getting season 2 of Ahsoka. I know that's like a thing.
That ain't getting
So
canceled, knowing Dave.
yeah, no, it literally. So we have Andor season 2 that we're getting because, as we talked about earlier, Tony Gilroy is a G and was like, "You're giving me 2 seasons before I start this," and so that's guaranteed. That's for sure the only reason we're getting a season 2 of Andor, and anything that has Dave Filoni's name on it is still good. That's those are basically like the things that we get right now. Um,
So
so
slim pickings.
yeah, it's I pulled up the picture because we have a group chat, obviously, and the picture of Kathleen Kennedy standing in front of that slate of projects and just saying like sold off, canceled, wiped from existence, reduced from 5 to 2 seasons, like canceled, on hold, under redevelopment. Like it's just there's not
Lost the
it.
rights.
Yeah, like I saw okay, so I saw someone also say this, and I fully agree with it. As a creator in the industry, as a writer or a director, why on God's earth would you sign up for a Star Wars project right now? Like why? I wish I need to find it. I have it bookmarked somewhere deep in my bookmarks on Twitter, but there's this guy who every time a new Star Wars project gets like canceled or or whatever, he like updates the percentage of Star Wars projects that actually like that go from announced to being completed, and the number is abysmal. It's awful. Like it's a terrible batting average. Like if Star Wars projects going from announcement to completion was a batting average in the MLB, there is no way in hell any team would draft that player. Like it's just you're not it makes no sense. And
Hey,
like
the books are doing great.
yeah, that's a yeah, exactly. Like it's literally we have the books and the comics, right? Those still look good and feel like they'll be fine, right? But yeah, as far as like TV
What
and
we show up
movies,
for.
nothing's looking real great right now. We didn't get any new animation announcements at D23, which sucked.
Yeah, we
By
were
the way, like
really
a bit
bad. We were batting zero on that one.
yeah, real rough predictions on our part there. Um, Nothing. We got absolutely nothing on the future of Star Wars animation, which is so cool. Love that. We don't. There are no other live action series besides Ahsoka, and we know we're getting Skeleton Crew, obviously. But like beyond that,
Is it
nothing.
getting a second? Like, do we know if it is it
Oh,
a
there's
limited
no way.
series?
I
Like,
0%
I
chance
don't know if it's
Skeleton
supposed to be a
Crew.
limited series or what. I have no
It
idea what its
hasn't
deal
been
is.
billed as that yet, but I
Yeah.
guarantee you they're working on those posters right now. Like like there's no way that's getting a season 2. Even before this because like I mean, this is going to sound rude, but like I'm sorry, I cannot see that show not bombing in terms of viewership. Like I don't I don't think
If
the
the
audience is going to
Acolyte did what it did, I
I
can't.
can't imagine I'm not like
I'm gonna still show up. I'm gonna be one of those viewers, but I like just the I guess the general public. If they lost an interest or whether it was losing of interest,
or
bad
just not being
reviews,
there.
whatever, like just it wasn't on their plate, whatever.
Mhm,
If there was a lack of that for the Acolyte, a bunch, this is a new
mhm.
era of Star Wars, bunch of lightsabers,
Yeah, there's 50 lightsabers in the
yeah,
episode.
yeah,
Like
there's a bunch of Jedi roaming around, like they're alive and well. Like
mhm.
if that's not pulling in solid numbers, I do not think a
Goonies
kids
version
Goonies
of yeah.
in space is going like, especially when it's the follow up to the show that didn't do the numbers well enough
Yeah,
to
when it's the
save
next
itself
thing
from
out there.
cancellation.
Yeah, like, it's when it's the next project up, I don't feel
Like
great about that one.
it's already an uphill battle for it in itself, and it has nothing to do with what it actually is because of just what it's coming after.
It's just
So
so it's
it's
so
yeah.
wild because when you look at it, like, they can't seemingly pull in new audience in the numbers that they need to, and they've completely split or lost the existing audience. Like I'll be brutally honest, if we didn't have this podcast in which I know that we're going to be talking about Skeleton Crew, I straight up wouldn't watch the show. I mean, like, I didn't even finish season 2 of The Bad Batch, and I like that show. Like, I like. There's just the brand at the franchise at this point has lost so much goodwill for me, and I want to give it so much like if you have a huge fan base that wants so desperately to like what you're putting out, and if you're losing them, like I I don't know how you fix that really, like
Yeah,
without
even
severely like refiguring. I don't know, like
like
it's
I will say I'll always go back to like I will never lose those stories that have been told and
yeah.
everything. And I like just the aesthetic I love. Like I have a huge collection. I always have. I will
Mhm.
always have one. But like even as just like the crazy fan that I am, it's hard to be optimistic right now.
Yeah, dude, it's impossible. I'd
Like
say it's pretty much impossible. Like you can't
I
like
mean,
if you
like,
look at the stuff, it's just how.
and it's like you give it's like, first of all, you promised so many new shows,
Mhm.
and then with the ones that survive and are delivered, you 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 expect
Are
one
not
season at this
fantastic.
point, like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, even besides that point, at this
Oh,
point,
besides the
like,
quality,
I
yeah.
can't even just, like, sit down and, like, you know, grow with it, watch it as a TV show, and
Yeah, like, why do you wanna get invested? It's gonna get canceled. You know
I
it's gonna
have
get canceled.
always said, and I've said this since, like, when Clone Wars was first starting out, I never really liked the original seasons of Clone Wars like many people when it came out.
Mhm,
Um, but I've always said, even to like even then, that Star Wars, while yes, it is that cinema like generational experience, like it is the big show, that is the
mhm,
golden ticket in the movies, and it always will be. I think as a development and as a story and to explore the universe, it's will survive, not survive, but it will tell those stories better from a television perspective. And I
mhm.
still believe that. But the way they've been doing it that way
Well, see,
does not
they
follow through on the traditional television
that's exactly what I was gonna say.
structure.
The
So
caveat there is that it would be better in a traditional television
exactly. So
setting,
like, and
but as
I
we're
still
saying
believe this. I've said this since I was a 10-year-old.
yeah,
And I always want there to be Star Wars movies. I want them to be a little spaced out, like, give me, like, what is it? 3 years was the traditional gap for the, yeah, 3 years. Give me those 3 years. I'm cool with that. Space them
mhm.
out a little bit. I don't need them every single year. Space them out. Give me the 3 years,
See, I
but
think
give me also a television show with, like, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 seasons, 13 episodes a season, 45 minutes each.
yeah,
Maybe that would do a lot.
better. Yeah, I think for the TV side of things, um, one, if they're not gonna shift just completely away from TV and focus more on the films, which I think arguably at this point is what they should do because television
Gotta get their
the
footing
streaming
back.
television side of it has diluted and lost so much of the goodwill that Star Wars as a franchise has. I think that you absolutely should be like, okay, we're going to take a break from trying to pump out
You gotta
18
get some
different shows.
trust back.
Yeah, and like focus on bringing Star Wars back to the big screen in the best way possible, which I don't think Mandalorian and Grogu is the way to do that, but that's a different conversation,
I agree.
which we'll talk about some in a second. But I think that you should shift away from the Star Wars TV as it exists and has existed for the last couple of years. And if you were to do it in a more traditional TV sense, that would be fine. I think you should though right now focus on the TV on the film side of things. I also like I agree that it would be good to like space them out like you don't need them every year. But then I also whenever you said that I was thinking about back in the golden days, not the golden days, just like 7 years ago, which is crazy to think about the fact that that was that long ago at this point, but like when the plan was that you could do like because they want to do like the sequel trilogy, like have one of those
And
movies
then
and then like
alternate with the stories, yeah.
yeah, a one off. Like that would have been so good if they wanted to have just chickened out and like messed that up, right? Like you
Yeah.
could have done mainline saga, like Skywalker saga, wrap that, do a one off, start Ryan Johnson's trilogy, one off, like do one of his trilogy
See, they
movies, a
have the
one off
potential to
story.
do that.
Uh,
They can
yeah,
do that, and they have done that, but I have like, I lost a little bit of trust with that because of they didn't know how to, 1, market Solo, 2, release
hmm
it far away enough from the last one that just came
hmm
out, which
well,
was
yeah,
a
I mean,
really controversial one,
it's just,
regardless of
mhm,
whatever, but,
yeah.
like, that's why I don't like, even if it's a 2-year gap, that's okay, but I think the
Mhm.
alternating 1 to 1, while yes, as a fan, that's fucking awesome, don't get
Yeah,
me
that's sick.
wrong.
Yeah. If it's a
But
Star Wars movie every year, sign me up.
yeah,
Like, if it's
yeah,
good.
exactly, but also trying them so focused on that timeline, look what
Wrecked
happened with the
them.
rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, I mean, it wrecked them. It's it's one of those things where they like course corrected too harshly, a la DC circa 2017. Which crazy that it happened at the same time. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it and say it out loud, but like it's just that thing where like they knee jerk reaction is way too hard to Solo not performing like it should. But that's also because they, for some, I legitimately do not understand how you can shoot 95% of a movie and be almost done with it and then be like, no, never mind. We need to redo the whole thing basically with Solo. It's a miracle that movie is as good as it is.
Yeah.
But that aside, like you could have done that. You could have had like post Skywalker saga, one of Ryan Johnson's movies, which for the record, by the way, has still never officially been canceled. Like
Which
that
is
is
not like
technically still in development. And I know
I
Ryan
guess,
Johnson is
like, they're just
recently
waiting on him to finish Knives Out.
Knives
I have
Out. Yeah,
no
right. There's
idea
yeah.
what the hell they're planning, like, I don't know.
I mean,
I'll
dude,
believe that when I'm sitting in a theater watching it.
I'm gonna stay delusional and copium on
I
that
really
for
hope it happens. I love
as
Ryan
long as I
Johnson. I'm
possibly
not
can.
like, we know I'm not a Last Jedi fan, but I love Ryan Johnson. So
I
I wanna see it, but I have no hope on that one.
I pray constantly that we do still somehow get that trilogy, that it sees the light of day. But like
That
you
would
could have
be
done one of those, like a Star Wars story, one of his a Star Wars story, one of his a Star Wars story, and then
mhm.
like D&D. I didn't want to see their trilogy really after their like
They
track record
deserve what
of st-
they like,
yeah, they deserve what
that's
they
what
got
yep.
as far as all that stuff. We don't have to get into them. This is not a Game of Thrones podcast, but um, like they could have done that with the movies, right? And I think that's what they should shift and kind of focus on now, while like wrapping up Ahsoka season 2 and the Mandalorian and Grogu movie. Which, oh my god! Also, can they change that title? Jesus Christ, that is a
I have
atrocious
been
title.
against like character titles.
It's
Like
just
I
it's
didn't mind the Mandalorian because I
mhm,
also like
that's fine.
season one. I enjoyed the thought that, oh, maybe this Mandalorian is in reference to Grogu, like me
Mhm, yeah,
theorizing and
that
stuff. And
like yeah, yeah.
I still like that potential. I
God,
do.
I hate Grogu. Sorry, that's a whole different thing.
I actually really like him, but that's a different discussion.
Oh
But
man, we'll have to get into that at some point because I can't
yeah,
stand that little dude.
but but no, yeah. What is stop
It's SEO
naming them
optimization.
after
That's literally it. It's just for SEO. That's
like it's
100% what it is.
horrible.
Oh, it's
It's
awful. It's
so
god awful.
stupid.
I thank God every day that Christopher Nolan made the Dark Knight trilogy when he did in 2008, getting ahead of the SEO. Because I guarantee you, I would bet all the money that I have that if the Dark Knight was being released today, it would have to be called Batman: The Dark Knight. There's no way in hell they released that movie without putting Batman in the title. Like it doesn't happen. That's a
Mhm.
totally separate thing.
Well,
But
you got
like
Batman Begins.
yeah, but yeah, like which is but that makes sense. That was like the first one, so
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you're coming like you want
I'm
Batman.
just messing with you on that one. No, you're
Yeah.
100% right.
um yeah, The Mandalorian and Grogu, god awful title. Also though, I have very little faith in that movie being good. I'm sorry. It just the leaked trailer cuz also this is another thing. Why are we still doing convention exclusive trailers? They leak every single time. Like and
Yep.
I know the reason that people say is they're like, "Oh, well it's an exclusive for the people that are like there to attend." Hey dude, the convention is the exclusive for the people that get to attend, right? Like the
The
experience of getting
panel.
to yeah, like the experience of going there is their exclusive. Idiots. The trailers leak every single time, and now I'm watching the first look at your project in 240p, and it's taking up a quarter of my screen. Like, why are you? Whatever. That's a whole other thing. But like, I don't think that footage looked good at all. I know it's super early in them filming and stuff still, so it's not done. I'll give them that benefit, but even still, like
Also,
the
like you just had season 3 was not as well received as the previous 2 seasons.
mhm.
And this is your first Star Wars movie since your really, really fucking controversial
Yeah,
trilogy.
like whatever you think about
I
quality wise of The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker or The Force, I feel like pretty much most people agree The Force Awakens is like good movie, even
it's
if they don't
consistent,
like it.
yeah.
They're like, that's a solid watch,
Yeah.
no matter what.
But like regardless of your stance on it, it was
It's 100%
controversial.
controversial. Yeah, like,
And season 3 of Mando can be considered a little
mhm.
controversial. Why is your return to the big screen, what, 7 years later with this?
2025, 29, 6 years later, maybe. Is it coming out next year? Or is it 2026?
I thought it was
It's next year,
2026.
right?
I don't know.
Oh, is it next year?
I don't even know anymore. I
Producer
can't
Sean
remember
in the
what I can't
background.
remember what the 240p trailer told me.
Drop it in the chat. We need to know. Um, yeah, I so either 6 or 7 years after the capstone to your Skywalker saga that yeah was controversial at best, right? That arguably they've like yet to recover from the reception to the Rise of Skywalker as a
2026. I
franchise.
was right. See, I am
May
smart
2026.
sometimes.
Okay, that makes. I mean, that does make sense production wise too. It'd be a quick
It
turnaround
just
to get it
started
out
filming,
next
I'm
year.
pretty sure. So,
Yeah,
or wrapped. I
without
don't
Pedro
remember.
Pascal because he's filming Fantastic Four.
That's
um,
not, that's another reason
yeah, I mean, he's just voiceover for that, which is fine. Like, good for him, get that bag. But
yeah.
yeah, it's a whole. I have very little confidence in the quality of that movie. I'm not gonna lie. I also have very little confidence in the quality of the Heir to the Empire adaptation movie that we're going to be getting. That's going to be like there. People are. It hurts so bad because people make jokes about it online that it's going to be like as close as they can try to get to like a Mandoverse version of Endgame with all these cameos and characters, and like we're getting CGI deepfake Luke Skywalker and
Oh,
all of
don't
this
get me
stuff,
fucking
which just is
started.
like, why, we're never moving past. It feels like we're never going to move past this, which sucks. It's so regressive and reductive and boring and just like fans. It's just fan service and self-referential and like, what are we doing here? It just doesn't make sense to me. We're not moving forward at all, and we're not only it does not feel like we're not moving forward, but the quality also doesn't feel like
It's not
good.
the game. Star Wars broke boundaries every single new film that came out up until
Hmm.
2005. Like that was its thing. Even in
Yeah,
2008, when it dropped that really bad Clone Wars movie, that animation was, while not
still,
fully rendered, it was something brand, like it was a new
yeah,
form.
it
Like
was leaps, right? Yeah, and so yeah, having the Mandalorian and the Grogu be Star Wars' grand return to the big screen hurts. um, so there's that, and then we already talked about Skeleton Crew probably not getting a season two. The other big thing about, or there's two other big things. One of them being whether or not we think James Mangold's movie is in any danger. I'm going to say no on this one because I feel like Mangold has pretty firmly situated himself as a company man for Disney with the like films that he's been putting out, and I think that he really wants to. I haven't seen Indy 5. I'm not an Indy fan, so make of that. Ooh, that's a whole other topic. Me and Sean argue about that every time that gets brought up.
I'm
But
biting my tongue, dude.
lucky this isn't an indie podcast. But like,
That's why.
I don't think that his movie is in danger. I think that happens. I pray that happens. I love him as a filmmaker, and I think the
It's
concept
another thing
behind
we
it.
can disagree on.
You don't like him as a filmmaker,
He's all right. Oh, he doesn't do what getting these big franchises. I don't
bro.
know.
All I would Logan is all I have to like. I mean, come
That's
on.
the only one I've enjoyed of his I can remember.
I haven't seen all of his
I
movies, but like
Indy 5 wasn't bad. It was definitely better than Indy 4.
I haven't seen Indy
But
5.
and it's not to say he's like, I'm not saying he's bad. I just think
Mhm.
he's average. I don't think, like, nothing he, like, it doesn't really like wow me. I
I
don't
still need
know.
to see Ford versus Ferrari, but I mean, like he's got stuff like 310 to
He's
Yuma,
like, he just
Identity.
seems
Like he's a
something
very solid
something
filmmaker, I
comes
think.
across to me, and I'm just really weird. I'm nitpicky. Like I don't even know if this is nitpicky. Something just comes across to me as like he's like a safe filmmaker. I don't
No,
know.
100%. I
That's where my
100%.
brain puts him,
He's
and
a really
that's
good like company franchise. Like will make a solid studio flick to the studio. That's why I think that his movie's not in danger of being canceled. And the fact that like
mhm.
he's a super competent filmmaker that works well within the big studio system
See, but
and
I
can
want
deliver.
someone really creative who challenge the studio. Last time we
Ryan
did
Johnson.
yeah, that's why I love Ryan Johnson, but I just didn't
Yeah.
like the product we got, but
Mhm.
it is what it is.
Yeah. I I don't think that his movie is in danger. I hope it's not because it's also again a new area of Star Wars that I think is a lot. It'd be super interesting to see. So I hope we get that. I also hope that Ray's film is fine. I have to assume that that one is still going to be
I hope
fine.
it is. I would have honestly like, honestly, I don't even know if I would have actually came out with that one over Grogu and Mando first. I don't know
I
which
would,
one
dude.
of.
I think you
You
should
think
do
so?
anything other than Mando and Grogu first.
Okay,
Anything,
I
dude.
think
Like,
that's a
why
fair
is
point. Honestly,
I
like
don't like I
I think because it's a new time period and it's fresh. The only reason I'm hesitant on it is because it's Ray and people don't and like half the toxic fan, like
yeah are gonna
you
be
know how
super
people are
against
with
it.
Ray. So like
Yeah.
that's why I don't think it's a necessarily a good idea as the first film because
So
of her reception.
and it also
But
speaks to like them wanting to because
play
it
safe.
from yeah, because I do understand that, like, annoyingly, Mandalorian and Grogu is probably gonna make a billion goddamn dollars. Which
Mhm.
sucks because I mean, but like the Deadpool and Wolverine just did it, like, which I don't. It's I think indicative of the stuff that people will that like large audiences will show up for, and I do think that Mandalorian and Grogu
I mean,
even
Grogu
get
will pull families into a theater.
yeah, like even given the mixed, if we want to call it that, reception to season three, like Grogu did become a giant cultural phenomenon. I
Mhm.
hate that guy.
I mean, it is for
Um,
kids too, so we
yeah,
always
so
forget we
like
always we always overlook that.
I do understand it being the one that they feel comfortable and safest getting into the theaters first, and also the fact that again it's Favreau and Filoni behind it, and so anything they're touching is going to be fine. Um, but yeah, that's something. Um, I don't know. The last big point thing that I wanted to talk about here is there's been some rumblings. So I want to preface this. There's been quote unquote rumblings, but just people for a while that have been like annoying people that have been like, oh, Kathleen Kennedy's going to step down. Like that's been a thing that's been going on for years, like the entire time she's been like leading the Lucasfilm. But it was worth noting that she was not at D23 at all. There was no public appearance there. And there was some other people like reporting and saying that they've heard some stuff that's been going on behind the scenes that could signify like really big change in leadership and stuff at Lucasfilm. And we also know that Filoni was recently got his promotion to chief creative officer for all the Star Wars stuff. So do we think that Kathleen Kennedy might be stepping away from her position at Lucasfilm? Um, I don't know. Would like to say I'm not one of the people that's like, oh, she's been bad at her job. I don't think that she's been bad at her job necessarily. Um, I guess the rest of this, like the previous like 40-50 minutes of this episode don't really make it sound like that considering the way that I've been talking about the way that everything, but like I don't think that she like the a lot of the problems that Star Wars has faced
Are
is
squarely
square.
her responsibility.
Yeah, like I don't think it falls 100. Like it's not 100% on her and the decisions that she's made. I think that would be a incredibly difficult job, regardless of who is the person doing it. Um, that said, I do think that it's not unlikely that she would want to step away from that at this point, um, and do something not as like ridiculously in the spotlight under so much constant fire and scrutiny and pressure and things like that, like if you don't need to,
Mhm.
um I could definitely see that being the case.
I mean,
So
she's older too, like, maybe she just retires, who knows? Like, like
or go back to Amblin, work with them, like
exactly, like, I mean,
I,
she this is quite a time to step away, and it would just be another whole mess, but also, like, I don't know, I never really got into the speculation, I never like, I'll believe when the
I'll just wait
time
for the announcement.
when the
Yeah.
time is right, when she's ready to leave or do her own thing, whatever, like,
Hmm.
the time will come, like, it's gonna happen, whether it's tomorrow or in 10 years. Who
Yeah.
knows? It'll come, and it'll probably come at an appropriate time, whether it's for the franchise or just for her and her career.
Hmm.
But like, I have never been one that like I have no say on it. Like
Right. What is
what
my,
is
yeah, right.
what are my thoughts and speculation on I have no say on a lot of the things I talk about, which can really discredit a lot of that shit I say. But like
Yeah.
but like what is my like is it's like saying like, oh, when is the president of like anything gonna step away? Like
Yeah.
they're the president. They're probably not gonna step away until there is that right opportune moment. Like
Hmm.
they're not just gonna do it for the oh, like, the grumblings. Oh, someone's mad because like something bad happened or something bad was
Yeah.
released or whatever. They're not just gonna axe their job for that unless they like
Yeah, like that's just like not how it
that's
works,
just not
really.
how the business works. Like, you're not just
Yeah.
gonna lose your job at like I mean, look at David Zaslav, like, or
Right.
however the
Yeah.
hell you
Yeah.
pronounce his name. Like,
Yeah.
can't stand
Dude's the
him.
worst,
Dude
and he's
is the
still up top.
worst employee or like worst businessman.
Boss, just terrible all
Just
on all
all the
accounts.
bad
Yeah,
things you could think of.
still there.
He's better, like
Yeah,
at being worse. Like he's
yeah,
awful, but he's still there. Like
yeah.
it's not gonna happen off after some bad releases or
It's not gonna
bad
happen like
reviews.
because of that.
It's not a
Yeah,
snap of a finger. It's not how it works. Like it'll happen when it happens, and it'll happen more likely on her terms than anyone's terms.
yeah.
So
I
I
would
it's just
agree with that.
it's
I
just something I just don't even give a thought of day to.
Yeah, I do think that it has more. I don't want to say credence, but like more.
Of course,
Um,
there's gonna be more of an eyebrow lift on this time around.
yeah, I think that it has more. I mean, yeah, for lack of a better word, credence or weight or whatever behind it now than it ever has. But I think that's just because it's been longer. Like to what you were just saying, like I've just been doing this for a long time. Like it would make sense to like you don't want to. That's a just tough position to stay in for extended periods of time. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe she'll be stepping down. I would be super. I mean, I feel like I don't know who would take that spot.
I don't know. Yeah,
Whatever. We'll see. I maybe she will, maybe she won't. It'll be interesting regardless. I still the whole future of what Star Wars is looking like in live action on television and the big screen is it's a big question mark right now, except for the couple of things. But that'll do it for this segment. But whenever we come back, we're going to be finishing our discussion on the Acolyte's cancellation with our segment Thank the Maker. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Framing the Force. Before the break, we discussed our thoughts on the future of Star Wars, but now we want to bring back a segment that we like to call Thank the Maker. This is where we dive into some of the creatives behind the Star Wars universe and show our appreciation for their efforts and their work. This week, as a farewell to the Acolyte, we wanted to shine a light on Leslie Headland, creator and showrunner of the series. Robby, what were some of the best elements of the Acolyte that you'll miss and want to thank Leslie for?
I really do want to thank her for her commitment to the EU, or at least to the commitment in bringing little random things in,
Mm-hmm.
like the Cortosis,
Yeah,
and
that was the first thing I was going to think of.
we got Plagueis. That was cool. I mean, I wish we didn't at this point, but
Yeah, I was gonna say,
anyway,
even though
like
you opened the episode saying you wish that
yeah,
we
no,
had.
that like I really wish we didn't, but like you could tell she was a fan of the EU and
Hmm.
she liked to borrow from it, and I do appreciate that. I also really appreciate the fact that she brought back some badass lightsaber choreography to our screens,
Yeah,
and she gave us Khmer, gave us a nice red blade on our screen doing work.
yeah,
um, I mean, his entire character design was cool. He was a really fun, I guess, antagonist. I guess
yeah.
you'd call him, but
Hmm.
just between his Cortosis helmet and bracers, his lightsaber, his little split in two lightsaber,
Oh, such a
just
sick
his
design.
fighting style, and the fact that Manny got to incorporate his heritage towards it, some Filipino fighting elements and moves. I
Hmm.
mean, just she let the actors, do their thing.
Hmm.
She brought in just some cool visuals when they were there. I mean,
Hmm.
um, and she had a respect for what came before it and what is no longer canon, and was like, let me help bring some stuff that the EU fans are of that are the EU fans are fans of within canon. So I do appreciate that. So, and it was fun having someone new run the ship.
Yeah, I agree on all those points. I think that I very much am appreciative of the fact that she wanted to take things in a previously unexplored direction and area. I know, obviously, like she didn't like start the High Republic era, right? It's a
Hmm.
thing that, as we talked about, was in the books and whatnot. But like wanting to bring that to live action and making that translation and exploring that era and taking a look at the Jedi in a way that we haven't seen on screen before, really. Like we do, like obviously the prequels are about their incompetence, right? But like seeing it as like oh, maybe they kind of are the bad guys, like explicitly in some situations,
Hmm.
I think is a really interesting thing. And I think is really cool that she wanted to bring Star Wars in that direction story wise. I think that like story wise, just taking those swings and being like, okay, we're gonna show the Jedi in this light. We're gonna show another version of people being seduced to the dark side. I do like. I remember one of the interviews that I read specifically where she stated that like she very much liked that the emphasis is put on like the dark side seducing you, right? And like that is what it is, and like really exploring it in that way, I think
Literally and
was,
figuratively.
yeah, like I think that that's a really cool thing to do. um and so very much appreciative of that. Bringing the entire like cast together, like getting that, as we talked about at the top, like that diversity in there, and like really pushing that to the front of Star Wars is something that's desperately needed. Like it could use more of that. We could use more people both behind and in front of the camera like that. And so getting to see that and her bringing that to the show, I think is really, into Star Wars in general, I think is really, really cool. Being able to, I mean, just being like a Star Wars showrunner, I can't imagine that job. Like that's so unbelievably intense, so much responsibility, so much to weather, and to deal with, as we've talked about in this episode, just like the amount of hate and everything that comes with that she gets just for being in the position that she's in and being the person that she is, like dealing with that. Just mad respect for that. And yeah, like I as much as, and I even said in this episode, like I didn't love the show, but I think that all of her intentions with it and all of the effort that she put into it, is you can feel it
It
on
was
like,
genuine.
yeah, like yeah, bringing that genuine, what is the genuine, I don't know. I was trying to like think of the like
Authenticity.
yeah, bring that like authenticity.
Make it
Yeah.
easy
I
for
was
you.
trying to make like genuine into authentic, like genuine t I don't, yeah.
I feel like
Bringing that
you're onto
authenticity.
something, but I don't know what the word is.
I feel like there is a word that's like that. But yeah, like bringing that to the show, like you can feel it, and that's really cool. Yeah, just wanting to explore the story in a handful of ways that we haven't really seen before, I think is important and really needed in Star Wars right now, as we just spent a lot of the last segment talking about, feeling like things are kind of like repetitive and stale and not going in new
Safe.
directions. Yeah, and safe, and like wanting to not be safe, I think is cool. And also having a, you can tell, like you were just saying, that she has a respect for the material, both canon and legends at this point, and like, and I think it's the right amount of respect without holding it sacred, if that makes sense. Like being
Hmm.
like, this is something that obviously I have a lot of respect for, and a lot of fans have a lot of respect for, but recognizing like, okay, this is also a thing that you don't need to treat like, I can't, break isn't exactly the right word, but like I can't break any of the toys. You know, like sometimes you do need to break some of the toys, you know, to do something interesting or to do something new with the story or whatever the project is going to be. And so I think that she definitely had that attitude when approaching it. And I think that that's something that, again, we desperately need more of, to bring it back to the Ryan Johnson thing of it all. Like that's kind of what he was doing with some of the story. And so like that vibe of like, yeah, I love Star Wars and I love the characters and the things that we have established here, but also like we should do something new with it or do something that we haven't seen before with it. And I think she very much brought that. Um, so yeah, I think those are the things that definitely stand out the most to me as far as like her contribution to the show and to Star Wars as a whole. Um, so yeah, again, just a big bummer that we won't be getting a season two.
That was a nice little bombshell, and it was really sudden too, because like it was only a month. I mean, yeah, we wanted to know what was going on, but we waited a while for Ahsoka before we got an announcement. So it is what it is. But
Yeah, it
that's
happens.
it's gonna do it for this week's episode. Thank you everyone for tuning in to episode seven of Framing the Force. Alex, where can people find you online?
You can find me online at the Alex Bats, actually Batts. We have a new at in the building, which is wild. And also at One with the GIF. It's my Star Wars GIF account, of course.
And you can find me online at Robby_Weidemann. That's Robby with a Y, Weidemann, and at SW Shot by Shot. Please be sure to subscribe here to The Aspect on YouTube and any platform where podcasts are found. Follow us on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, Instagram and TikTok at The Aspect Co. Thank you to Peter Fraser for providing our series music. And thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you again in a galaxy far, far away.